Welcome to the S&box Comprehensive Player Model Guide. I'm Grodbert and today we'll give our character a way to fight back with a pistol, a rifle and a shotgun. This is going to be a long one, so you know the drill by now. Check for a pinned comment, download the model in the description, place it in your models folder. Let's just go, man! Great, we can look around and stuff, but this gun is not just for show. Let's add shooting. In Modeldoc, add the ranged shooting animation, looks scuffed. Well, it doesn't matter since we'll add the motions on top, so add a linear delta markup. And in Animgraph, get into the rifle group and create an add node. Let's place this after everything. If we placed it before the Lookats, any rotation of the gun will get corrected, like when we had to mask out the arms way. Add our shooting delta, make it loop, connect everything and... Whoa, that was easy. Let's turn up the playback speed. Hell yeah! Okay, now you can stop. Dude, hey, stop! Chat, we gotta stop this guy. Let's quickly add a state machine. In it, two states. Idle as the starting state and shooting. Connect the two. Now make a new boolean called b_attack. Why the b? Because the parameters are ordered alphabetically, and the citizen has so many of them, they add b at the start of a boolean, so they are all grouped together and easier to find. Now add a parameter condition, select the attack boolean, when it's on, it goes into shooting. Copy and paste it onto the other arrow, uncheck the box, so when it's off, it goes into idle. Connect the state machine to the output, put the shooting additive into the shooting state, and before it into the idle. If we try, we can now stop and start. The first shot looks kinda weak. Why would... Oh right, the blend time. If we go back in the state machine, by default, all transitions have a 0.2 second blend into the new state, which will ease in the animation. Set idle to shooting's blend time to 0, so it's instantaneous instead. There we go. Now, if we only shoot once, the first shot is nice and strong. I can't quite get just one shot. What if we only wanted to shoot once? Clearly we can't do that as long as our boolean is a toggle, so select your attack parameter and check the auto reset box. Now it's only on for a single frame. Okay, now it resets too fast. It's not even playing the full animation. Let's change the shooting into idle blend condition from parameter to a finished condition. This way it goes back to idle at the end of the shoot animation. And... bro, stop! I guess that's my fault. If the animation is set to looping, it never finishes. So disable the loop and there. Well, it works, but I'm spamming this button and he's not shooting that fast. Again, my fault for letting it finish the animation first. Now, I don't recommend you use this often, but in the idle state, turn on always evaluate and it becomes purple. This means that no matter what state you're currently in, this state is always ready to transition out would any of its conditions be met. In our case, whether the attack boolean is on. I say be careful with this option because it's very easy to get infinite loops and crash your editor. If we try it now, we can spam to our heart's desire, even if the animation is not done playing. Call this state machine shooting machine and we'll just leave it to the programmer to deal with the fire rate. Let's try something fun. Remember Anim Events? Back when we had to add footstep events? You know, make sounds, switch body groups, create particles. We can use any particle from our project or that comes with S&box to spawn a Muzzleflash on an attachment, like our gun forward, or even search for particles in the UGC. Look, there we are! Okay, doesn't seem like we'll find anything useful actually. Never mind then, delete this Anim Event. This shit is so ass. It's probably getting replaced along with the legacy particles. While we're here in Modeldoc, let us add something important. Simple animation and reload. Specifically the one for the SMG. Beautiful. If you want the magazine to detach as part of the animation, you can do that if you switch to a body group that has the magazine rigged to the left hand, or you can even have the animation in the gun itself and use Anim Events to switch body groups automatically. Bonemerged models can have their own separate animations playing, even using bones that are exclusive to them and not included in the model you're bonemerging them into. For example, if you want to have a spring bone on the gun for when the lever gets pulled back. Whether you do the switch by asking the programmer to play an animation in the bonemerged model or by telling them to switch the body groups for you, you won't have a hand in the final product. So for the rest of the guide you'll have to suffer through the magazine not detaching. Now the question, how do we even blend this in? We're in a catch-22 because if we place it before the lookat, it's gonna go crazy trying to keep the gun straight, but if we do it after, we're gonna need to do a lot of corrections with all those look directions. Man, what a bother, let's just blend it before the lookats. All the way to the left is our cute pose that gets added on top of the movement. Let's blend the reload here. The pose was a delta of the idle, so copy the AnimSubtract from the ranged animation into the reload. Add the reload delta, which will be added onto the movement, just like our pose did. They're gonna share these add nodes, so make the state machine to the left of them. Connect it where the pose was, and in it, two states, idle and reload. Idle being the start, connect the two, create a b_reload boolean, and make it auto reset. Use that as a parameter condition for idle into reload. Check the box. As for the reload into idle blend, we'll use a finished condition, connect them up and... Okay, yeah, that was to be expected. The lookats are keeping the gun trained onto the target. You know what? How about we just disable the lookats? Lookats do have a wait parameter, but aim matrices don't. Well, so much for that. Guess it's state machine time again. Call this one disable lookats and place it just after the lookat chains. So connect it, create two states, enabled as the start and disabled. Connect the two, connect the lookats to enable, and before the lookats to disabled. Now for the conditions, enabled to disabled we'll use the reload parameter, and then disabled to enable we'll use how do we know when the reload is over? Normally we just use a finished condition, but the animation is like 6 nodes behind. We need a way for the Animgraph to communicate with itself through long distances. We need tags. If you don't have the window, enable it and place it somewhere. Create a new tag with a plus, and you are presented with two types. Event tags are to communicate outside the Animgraph, like which part of an animation deals damage, while internal tags are for the Animgraph to communicate with itself, which is what we'll use. Call these disable lookats. Now to set our tags, we have a few ways to do so. One of them is to set them in the states. If you go into our reload state machine and select the reload state, we have the option to add one or more tags here on the right. In the drop down, we can also specify when it's active, like only when entering or exiting, but let's keep while current. Now, while in the reload state, the tag will be active. Great! Now we can go back to our disable lookats state machine and add tag conditions, delete the reload parameter condition, and instead use tag conditions, enable to disable check, disable to enable uncheck, and if we try it out in the preview, it only works for a split second. We see in the node preview that it's a state machine doing it. Ah, I see. By default, switching to a state resets the state. This means that when we reload, it triggers this state machine, which switches state and then resets everything before it, including the reload state machine back into the idle state and out of the disable lookat tag. How devious! Select both connections and uncheck the reset destination box, and now, yeah, it works! But I don't like how fast it blends out. Let's double the blend time to 0.4 seconds. Okay, why is it waiting to blend out now? It's that darned reload animation, it's holding up the tag. Let's get into the state machine. We can actually change the finished condition by pressing on it and on almost finished. Instead of blending 0.2 seconds after the animation is finished, it blends 0.2 seconds before the animation is finished. Let's try it out and it's barely noticeable. Let's double, no, triple the blend time. So now it blends out 0.6 seconds before the animation is finished. Still doesn't feel snappy enough. Let's change how it's blended out with a transition curve. The default is ease in and ease out, which means that it starts slow, picks up speed, and then slows down. This is fine for most animations, but let's try ease in. So it starts fast and then slows down to ease in. Looks better. I guess the shooting machine also resets the animations. Let's quickly turn that off too. Okay, now the shooting doesn't even work. This is because we actually need a reset here. If we don't reset a non-looping animation, it's only ever going to play once when the preview starts and never again. So check the reset destination from idle to shooting, and now, well, it works again, but it still resets everything before it. It's this damn add node that connects the shooting to the rest of the Animgraph. Luckily, you can just uncheck the reset base child box. to block any reset signal for the base. Now we can shoot while reloading. Okay, I'll stop ignoring it. The left hand never leaves the gun. Of course, this is due to the LtoR IK chain. Let's use another tag to disable it, so create a new one called disable LtoR. This time, let's add the tag in the reloading animation itself. You can see that even animation clips have an arrow in the top right, which reveals to us a menu to add tags and specify the time frame they are active. I've disabled the AnimSubtract in Modeldoc for visibility. Let's see. He initially removes the left hand, so that's where the tag starts, and he starts reaching back about here. He takes around 0.7 seconds to grab the gun. We'll keep that in mind. Re-enable the AnimSubtract, go to our LtoR, add a state machine, init, enabled and disabled states. Disabled is our start state, connect the two and it transitions into enabled when not disabled by the tag, of course. Set the blend time to 0.7 seconds like we said earlier, 10 into disabled for when it is disabled by the disable LtoR tag. Also uncheck reset destination for both of the transitions. Make this a group. Let's try it out and perfect! Compared to adding the tags in states, where the tag is turned off when exiting the state, having the tags in the animations means tags will be held on until the animation is fully blended out, as tags can only be either on or off. You can prevent that by checking the block tags from Waning states box, which will turn off any tag from animations that are being blended out. We're not using this now, but I thought I should mention it since this is the tags episode. Lastly, the player should be lowering their gun when sprinting, so add the ranged run animation. We'll have to decline the motion frames wizard this time. We'll blend this like we did with the reload, so copy the AnimSubtract from the reload animation. Since we want to be able to reload when sprinting, we could make a state machine that switches between only the idle and run pose, but let's reuse the reloading state machine, make a new state called run, connect it to the other two states. Now for idle into run transition, we will still use our root motion speed, add a control value condition, and select our root motion speed. Let's do 200, change the comparison to greater than 200. Copy and paste this condition into the run to idle transition and change it to less than or equal to. Then copy idle to reload for run to reload since the condition is the same. Copy reload to idle and use it for reload to run, but at the root motion greater than 200 condition. So if the reload ends while you're sprinting, it will go here instead of passing through the idle first. Add a single frame of the ranged run animation and connect it to the run state. Now if we go over 200, oh god damn it, the Lookats. I don't want to disable it while running. Guess I'll have to make another state machine. We'll have to fit it after the Lookats, but before the enable Lookat state machine. Two states, gun the start and gun lower. Connect, gun to lower uses the root motion speed condition, greater than 200, the other less than. Remember to uncheck the reset destination for both. Connect the Lookat chains into gun and gun lower copy the Lookat, but we'll use the I attachment instead of gun forward. Works pretty good, although it's using the strong Lookat chain with a full pelvis influence. Let's go back in Modeldoc, copy it and call this one Lookat weak. Lower the pelvis influence and use this for the gun lower Lookat. Perfect. And we can also reload. Did you see that? That was a fast blend out from reload. There it is. Quick pause. Let's use the recording feature to debug this. By now, surely you've noticed this bar filling up every time you start a preview. This records your last 10 seconds of the Animgraph. You can use it to go back and forth the recording, press unpause and the last 10 seconds will be on a loop. And when you're done, you can press this red record button to go back to the preview. Let's slow down the playback speed and try to catch the cause of that fast blend in the reload state machine. Aha! It's passing through the idle and then quickly into the run, skipping the longer blend time. Even if it meets this condition, there is an order at which transitions are checked here in the bottom right. It first checks for the idle transition, which it clears too. We could add a root motion less than 200 condition, but instead let's just reorder them so it checks for the run before the idle. Perfect. I think we're just about done with the rifle. Let's add other weapons, like the non-weapon. We'll only use a weak Lookat for this group. If we made a state machine to switch to all the different weapons, we'd have to add so many states and transitions. You have two other nodes we can use to switch through many states. choice and selector. The choice node chooses the input for us either randomly based on a weight you assign to the inputs or sequentially with iterate. This is good for random selection or going down a list of animations, but not what we want. For that, we'll use the selector, which switches to different inputs based on a parameter. So let's make a new enum, the one where you can assign names to values, call it Holdtype, and add two options. The first is none, and the second is rifle. Use this parameter for the selector and the inputs will appear. Connect a weak lookat to none and the rifle group to rifle, then the selector to the ModelSpace legs corrective, and oh, LtoR is on. At least it works. Clearly, we need to tell it which group uses the LtoR. This calls for another tag. Call this one LtoR. Go to the iCase group and into the state machine. Let's add that LtoR must be on to switch into enable. This imitates an AND gate. Both conditions must clear to enable it, but we can't do OR gates, where it switches out if either one or the other condition passes. To do that, we must use an additional transition, copy the condition from the other out and change the tag to LtoR and disable it. So now it switches off whether either LtoR is disabled or disable LtoR is enabled. What a mouthful. Now we need to tell it which group uses this tag. Luckily for us, we can set that in the selector. Here on the right, the rifle group will turn on the LtoR tag while it's current. That seems to have done it. Let's try our hand at making a one-handed weapon, like a pistol. Add the animations in Modeldoc. We got the aim matrix, the reload and the run pause. Politely decline the wizard. Okay, it's getting crowded here. Group all of the two-handed animations into a group and do the same for the one-handed animations. Duplicate the pause for the aim matrix and rename it as such, and subtract the idle to all of the pistol animations, except for the matrix where we subtract itself since we're adding this after those other poses, and change the frame to 4, the neutral look direction. Now add a new value to the Holdtype Enum called pistol. Copy and paste the rifle group, call it pistol, and let's switch out the animations. The single frame pause, the reload animation, the run, and even the sequence that's used in the aim matrix. Let's also Bonemerge the revolver. There we go. Oh, what is this? Airsoft? Let's not use the rifle's shooting animation after all. Kinda spoilers, but add the shotgun's shooting animation since it's stronger. Damn, look at that recoil. The head even detaches from the body. Let's just trim out the part where it pumps. But now it doesn't loop well. You can fix that by adding an AnimSmoothLoop markup, wherein it will try to make the animation loop by gradually pushing the bones towards the first or last frame. The start is fine, so no corrections there. Let's correct the last 2 frames. There we go, smooth loop. Let's also add a linear delta since this is a shooting animation, and call this ranged 1/8 shoot. We are lazy India, we reuse animations, you see. Change out the pistol shooting animation to this new animation and set the playback speed back to 1. It's better, but why is the knockback more like a knock, right? I guess this is what we get for being lazy India and using an additive from a pose that's too different. Mainly the pelvis. In the pistol pose, it's rotated to the left, as opposed to the right like the two-handed weapons. So the parent of the head is giving us problems, huh? If only I could just blend the motions and ignore the parent's rotations. Wait a minute, do they have it? Yes! ModelSpace subtract. Let's try this instead of the linear delta. Select itself as the target, and in the add node, you have to specify to do a ModelSpace addition through this checkbox. There we go. And for last, the shotgun. We'll only add 2 new animations, shotgun shoot and reload. Move them to the two-handed group, copy the anim markup from the other animations, linear delta for shoot and subtract idle for reload. Go add the new hold type shotgun to the enum, copy the rifle group and rename it to shotgun. Connect it and inside change the reload animation and then the shoot animation. Again slow it down back to 1 playback speed. Bonemerge the shotgun. Let's try. Oh, the hand is slipping. This group needs the LtoR tag in the selector. Awesome. and since the shoot animations are placed after the lookats, it doesn't try to point the gun forward when pumping. Okay, final stretch. We see that the shotgun only reloads one bullet in the animation. In other hold types, reloading switches out to a new magazine. You get all of the bullets in one go, but here we need a way to keep adding bullets. A good way to do that is to separate the animation in 3 parts: start, loop, and end. Right, let's disable the subtract so we can see what we're doing. Copy and paste the reload 3 times and add start to the name, loop to another, and end to the last. And heck, let's group them together as well. Now to trim the animations. For the start, we want up to when he grabs the bullet, around frame 26. This means loop will start at 26 and end just about after he puts the bullet in, about 50. There, we could add a smooth loop to make it loop, but we'll leave the smoothing to the state machine's blending. What we need most is for the animations to match, meaning the end will start at frame 50. Now that we got these 3, re-enable the AnimSubtracts. Back in the shotgun Animgraph group, we'll need a state machine for this complex reloading behavior connected to the reload slot. In it, 3 states: start, loop, and end. Start being the starting state, obviously, and end being the cryptic end state. Now this is new. What does it mean to be an end state? Well, in the state machine in front, the reloading state uses a finished condition to know when to switch out. It's easy to know when an animation is finished, not so much when it's behind another state machine. By marking a state as the end state, when it is reached, the state machine sends a finished signal which will allow us to use a finished condition in successive state machines. Hey, our shooting animation is behind an add node, and that never gave us a problem. What gives? That's because by default, add nodes and masks use the timing of the child here, and that's fine for most cases. Let's connect them up. Start to loop, to end. No need to connect end to start because the state machine resets anyway at this point, and since all the states match, we don't need a blend, so set the blend time to 0. Let's use a finished condition just to see if this works. Replace the animation with 3 new animation clips: start, loop, and end. Connect them up and let's see. Oh, the LtoR chain. Let's add the disable LtoR tag to the start and loop state, not to end since that's when he pumps the shotgun anyways. Perfect. Or not. I guess we can put a little of the tag in the end animation too. There we go. How to loop now? Let's try making the loop animation loop. Finished condition will never happen ... How ominous. Guess we can't do that. How about we have 2 loop states constantly going into each other? Copy and paste the loop state and connect the 2 with each other. Add a finished condition and for now disable the transition to end, just to test them out. Connect a loop animation to this new loop node and I guess move it above the end state. Let's try. How odd, it's not blending, even though I have 0.2 seconds of blend time. Let's increase it to 0.3, still nope. I guess since we have to reset the animation to make it start, you fundamentally cannot blend an animation with itself. If that's the case, let's just make a copy of the animation and use that. Okay, it kinda works, but how annoying. The blend takes 0.3 seconds, the animation is so short that by then, it is already almost finished. I'll have to start the animation 0.3 seconds earlier to compensate. Let's see, animation is 60 FPS divided by 10, that's 6 times 3, 18. I'll have to start 18 whole frames earlier, so at frame 8. And the start animation as well needs to end at only frame 8. Whatever. Let's try now. Sure, this looks passable. Now we need to let it know when to stop. Instead of adding another boolean, let's reuse the reload instead. Currently it auto resets, but if we make it a toggle, we can use it for a parameter condition set to false. Remember to reorder the transition order so that this is the first it checks. Re-enable the transitions. Now, as long as reload is on, it will keep reloading. To stop it, turn off reload. And like we said, once we reach the end state, the state machine in front of it switches back to idle, ready for the next reload. If we didn't have the end state, we wouldn't be able to reload ever again, as it never gets reset. You can even use an event tag when exiting the state to signal to the programmer when a bullet has been loaded in, get rid of the finished condition and let them decide when the reloading stops. I guess while we're reloading we can use the weak head lookat, so plug in the weak lookat to the lookat disable state, kinda false advertisement, but we can make exceptions. We now have 3 great hold types that encompass most ranged weapon you would want to have. All we have left to do now is a melee system